Hello chess friends and welcome to Out of Chess channel and welcome to really a crazy and spectacular game played by the latest version of Stockfish, the powerful Stockfish 16. Today we see the fish playing it out against another top engine Minic in one of the most popular openings against e4. Today we see the fish playing the beautiful Najdorf Sicilian with the black pieces. So put your seatbelts on. This is really crazy. This is really a tactical festival that you see now in the later stage of the game. In my opinion, one of the craziest Najdorf Sicilians that I've seen in my life. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces. The Minic chess engine opened with move e4. We have c5, the Sicilian by the fish. Knight to f3, d6 modern variations. Knight to c3 Nf4, knight to f6, d4. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and now comes the beautiful Najdorf Sicilian move a6 with, of course, the preparation to hit the flanks with the move b5. Usually the best lines are f3 or bishop to e3 going into the so-called English attack. Here Minic played bishop to e3 and Stockfish plays immediately the most aggressive line with knight to g4 or knight to g4 hits simply the bishop. The bishop has to now again step back somewhere. After bishop to g5, Stockfish continues the attack with h6, bishop to h4, and now a new attack against the bishop, g5. After bishop to g3, okay, the bishop is not so dangerous here like it was on this diagonal, but there is of course a problem because you're advanced two pawns too much. Now there are several light score problems in black's position. Of course, you cannot have everything. Now you have solved one particular problem. You have solved now the problem about the dark square bishop, but now, as I said, many structural weaknesses in black's camp here on the king side. After move bishop to g3, Stockfish continues with bishop to g7, of course using the attack on this long diagonal. We have queen to d2, preparing queenside castling by Minic, and Stockfish continues again with the new attack against the knight on d4 with the move knight to c6. We have knight to b3, a retreating move by Minic, and now b5. Stockfish, of course, attacks immediately. Also now the queenside because Stockfish anticipates, of course, that white could castle queenside, so that's why you have to be fast here on this side of the board. We have h4. Minic is breaking this small pawn chain, this h6 g5 structure. Noticed, of course, here Minic notices, of course, that this position could crack on this side of the board, and Stockfish releases the pressure with the move g takes h4. I don't know. If I would play now this position with the white pieces, I would probably take with the rook. It seems to me more aggressive, more dynamic. Probably, I think even Stockfish would play the move rook to h4. Stockfish does not evaluate this next move by Minic as an inaccuracy or something, but I simply don't like to play with the same piece twice in the opening stage. The bishop has already played many times so far, so that's why I think I would take it out with the rook here. Although the evaluation is simply the same, but it seems to me that this move rook to h4 would be simply more really spectacular here from white's perspective. But Minic took with the bishop, had a different idea in mind, which is also perfectly fine. You'll see also the cool ideas here by Minic with the white pieces. Minic is trying to get the d5 score with the knight and hit also the e7 weakness, because the knight could be then a little bit overloaded to the defense of this particular square. So that's why also understandable solution here also by white, but still I kind of feel that the rook move was more simply slightly better here from white's perspective. So after bishop to h4, knight to e5 here by the fish. Here Minic continued with this idea, knight to d5, occupies of course the spaces in the center of the board. It's very hard of course to kick away now this knight from this beautiful square, because you cannot play e6. The bishop's activity is not allowing this types of moves. So what should white do? If you play here f4 instead of knight to d5 immediately, I've also analyzed this line. Then knight to c4 is very dangerous, because after bishop to c4 and b takes c4, you have to step back with the knight, and now with rook to b8, there is a clear target, of course, now in white's position, the weak b2 pawn, and it's now very hard even to castle queenside because the b file is open. You can maybe try rook to b1, protecting everything, but now with f5, I don't know. The next couple of moves will probably be here by white. Queen to a5, there are some tensions here around the square c3, so that's why understandable why Minic did not play here the move f4. Minic continued, as I said, with the most progressive plan, knight to d5, and this position has been also played many times in chess history. Now Stockfish continues with the beautiful knight to c4. Stockfish is desperately trying here to open the queen side somehow, because if the position does not get opened here on the queenside, then queenside castling is a pretty solid position for white, and then finally maybe f4, even if possible g4 storming here on this side of the board would be very dangerous here for Stockfish to handle. So after knight to c4, we have bishop to c4, b takes c4, the knight is under fire, Stockfish retreats, Minic retreats here to c1, and now comes, I would say, even the first critical moment of this beautiful chess game. Here, many of us, I think, would take here the pawn on b2, but actually this would be very dangerous here for black, because after rook to b1, and for instance if you retreat here to g7, then there is always the weak square on b6 that black could occupy, and the problem is now after something like knight to e2, a normal move here by white, you cannot compete on the b file. This would not be good for black, because obviously after knight to b8 the knight gets deflected from the square that Minic attacked, of course, in the beginning with the move bishop to h4. So here we have bishop to e7, and I think this is game over here for black. So this is not working. Instead of this move bishop to g7, you could maybe try bishop takes c1 here, but now after rook to c1, again, I would not love to play this game from black's perspective. Many dark square problems, you have a weak pawn on c4, so it's also not working. So after knight to bishop to g7, let's again see this line. If you try here knight to e2, let's see, you don't want to compete against the rook on the b file. You could maybe try here, I don't know, rook to a7, protecting maybe your 7th rank somehow. This is also not working, because after rook to b6, again, the knight is hanging. The knight is the key defender of the e7 square. You can maybe get it out, but now look at this. Knight to d4, a knight would come on f5, a knight could come on c6. So it's again a messed up game here, simply, I think, for white. So this is not working. So that's why here from knight to c1, you see it's very risky here to pick up the weak pawn on b2. So far it's not working. Stockfish, of course, plays the correct choice. Rook to bx, really crazy move here by the fish. Doesn't want to take it out here immediately. Of course, Minic plays now c3, locks now the long diagonal for the dark square bishop, and Stockfish continues now with normal development with bishop to e6. f4, we have kingside castling by Stockfish. Interesting idea, really risky. I'm not sure if I would play this move. It seems to me that simply the structure in front of the king is simply too weakened in order to castle here. So Stockfish castled and waited here white simply its next attacking moves. Here Minic continues with knight to e2. Of course, normal development of the knight. We have now the move f5 by the fish. Here, of course, trying, of course, to somehow deflect this pawn from the defense of the knight. And now Minic plays a very interesting idea, g4. If you play here, of course, f takes g4, then f5 is going to happen, bishop to d5, then the queen is coming into the game, and then you're getting simply destroyed on light scores here by white's activity. So that's why after move g4, Stockfish took now the e pawn. Here Minic continued with the move f5, and now comes the stunner of the game. Maybe just for fun, you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for black. I'm not sure how many of us would dare to play this particular move. It's really crazy how the fish is playing this complicated middle game. So after move f5, what would you do now here with the black pieces? Really hard to see. Okay, here Stockfish played the amazing rook to b5, sacrificed the bishop. Here we have after f takes e6, the open f file. This is now huge position, but also tactical problem in white's position. After move f takes e6, now comes another spectacular follow-up by the fish, e3. This is the way to go. And this move caused too much problems here for white. From this point on, Minic made its only mistake. It's really main blunder of this spectacular game. After move e3, what you could do is, of course, to play knight to e3, but the issue is now after knight to e5, you see the f file is open, so you cannot castle kingside here, and now the knight on d3 is coming. You can maybe try here knight to c1 in order to control the d3 square, but then you get the fork on f3. That's now the huge tactical problem. What you could do, and actually this would be the best way here for white to proceed, is to move queen to e3, but very risky again. Of course, rook to d5. Now Stockfish would get its piece back, and now you can maybe try to attack this one. Stockfish would would probably continue with queen to a5, rook to f1, and now after knight to e5, again, I think many positional problems around the square d3. This is, again, very dangerous here to handle for white. So, but after move e3, Minic played even the worst move, played queen to d1. Tried to keep the queen connected to the knight on d5. We have here an amazing move again by the fish, knight to e5, again with a huge threat, knight to d3. And you don't have good squares to escape with your king, so knight to d3 would force you basically to give up the queen for a knight. So that's why Minic tried knight to f4, lock somehow the open f file, and Stockfish continues with knight to f3. There is only one good square for the king. The king has to now step back to f1, but now you're getting lined up here against the rook on f8. Really crazy performance here by Stockfish 16. Now another beautiful move here by Stockfish, queen to a8, continues simply the attacking flow. Beautiful maneuver of the queen. Now the queen is lined up all over the board. It's also indirectly, of course, attacking here the rook on h1. We have bishop to e7 by Minic. Here, even if you try bishop to g3, then queen to e4, very dangerous to handle, with some ideas of knight to e7, bishop to d4, putting more pressure here simply on the f file. After bishop to e7 that Minic played, Stockfish played another beautiful tactic. Maybe again you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for black. So what would you do now in this particular position? Only one move is, I think, here really winning for black. It's a beautiful move that, of course, Stockfish played. Okay. Here the fish played the amazing rook takes f4, sacrificing the rook for the exchange. After knight to f4, we have rook takes b2, and the huge problem is now here that there is a checkmate threat on f2. Rook to f2 is actually a checkmate because the knight is controlling all of the squares, and you see the rook would be actually supported by the pawn on e3. In this particular position, believe me or not, the Minic chess engine even resigns. So what's the issue? Let's see possible continuation. As we said, if you play rook to g1, then you're getting this one, rook to f2 checkmate. If you try bishop to h4, you're trying maybe somehow to control the f2 square, then the queen is coming in a beautiful way into the game, and the problem is you cannot play queen to d5. Your pawn is standing in the way, so you cannot trade off queens. I think white would love now to simplify the game by trading off the queens. Now after queen to e4, you can maybe try bishop to g3, but now queen to f4, for instance, is also possible, bishop to f4, and again the same tactic, rook to f2, a beautiful checkmate. It would have been for sure. So of course, as we said, this didn't happen in the game, but after this move, rook takes b2 in this particular position, the Minic chess engine resigned. But the continuation was also, I think, very spectacular. So great game by the fish in the Najdorf Sicilian. Spectacular tactics all over the board. This is really crazy how the fish is playing these types of openings. So maybe if you're a Najdorf player, you love this particular game because it has so many dirty ideas, so many dirty tactics. I think this is something for you. I think maybe you can apply some of these tactics in your own game. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Really crazy performance again by Stockfish 16. If you want to see more epic, brutal, sharp tactical games like this, check out our Come to Chess Games Played by Computer series. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.